Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Let's dive in. Let's go to the biggest game in the Big Ten. And it is a game that I think we could have all seen having playoff implications and Big Ten championship implications in the preseason, just not with the team that is actually favored in this game. I am, of course, talking Michigan going to Bloomington, Indiana. Indiana, those Hoosiers, Coach Sig, 13.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 49.5. That's actually up a little bit from 48.5. It is worth noting, by the way, Indiana did open as a 14.5-point favorite, so it has been bet down a little bit in Michigan's favor. But like I said, Indiana is the surprise story of the season. And listen, I don't mean to oversell this. Indiana fans, at this point, you know the story. America knows the story. I still don't think people fully appreciate what Coach Sig has done in Bloomington this year, because it's not only that Indiana is a top 10 team in the country. One, they're 9-0, best record in school history. Two, all 9 wins are by 14 or more points. Okay, it's not like, we've seen, I remember a couple years ago, Michigan State got really hot for 1 year under Mel Tucker. But if you watch the games, they had like 5, 6, 7, 8 wins by 1 score or less, and it felt kind of not fluky, but was it really sustainable? Well, Indiana is absolutely obliterating everybody this year. And what stands out, if you actually just look at the numbers, they basically do everything at a really high level, at least the stuff that you want your team to do. How about this from Indiana? They are currently top 10 in total offense, top 10 in scoring offense, top 10 in total defense. They have the number 1 rush defense in all of college football, and they're top 10 in turnover margin. They force a lot of turnovers. They don't turn the ball over very much themselves. I mean, that's just a great coach team, right? Don't give up a lot of points. Don't give up a lot of yards. Score a lot of points. Put up a lot of yards, and don't turn the ball over. You can't ask for much more from your Indiana Hoosiers. And I think what's interesting about this game is that this is a team that is not slowing down. I think in some ways they are only getting better. Last week they played Michigan State. They fall down 10-0. They rally. They win 47-10. But I think what's interesting and what's noteworthy from that game, Curtis Rourke came back, and Curtis Rourke played at a really, really, really high level after missing that Washington game. You kind of wonder, you kind of sit there and say, okay, he kind of hurt his hand 2-3 weeks ago when they played Nebraska. How is he going to be? First of all, credit to Indiana for beating Washington with the backup Taven Jackson. But Curtis Rourke comes back last week, 19 of 29 passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. The defense does the rest from there. 47-10 is the victory as Indiana again improves to 9-0. Curtis Rourke, by the way, a cool 19 touchdown, 3 interception TD to interception ratio. While Indiana does pretty much everything well. Can't say the same about the Michigan Wolverines. Okay, so Michigan, listen, we knew it was going to be a rebuild. I don't think anybody expected quite what we have seen so far this season. Coming into this game, Michigan is obviously sitting at 5-4 overall. Still have Indiana, still have Ohio State. So realistically, they are probably looking at a 6-6 season. Probably why all that booster money is coming in to try to get Bryce Young into this program. But it's not just the quarterback play that's really struggling. You really look at Michigan. They do defend the run pretty well, but outside of that, they don't do much of anything. One of the worst pass offenses in all of college football. They, on the season, currently rank, as of right now, 128th in the country out of 134 teams. Only Iowa is averaging fewer passing yards per game this season. And then the defense, because here's the thing, right? That last year, a lot of the focus was J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, whatever, but that defense was elite across the board. This year, pretty good stopping the run, but they are not very good against the pass. 95th in the country in passing yards. Now, if you want to defend Michigan a little bit, Texas has an elite passing attack. Obviously, Oregon last week has an elite passing attack. Washington has a pretty good passing attack with Will Rogers in the Jed Fish system. USC and Lincoln Riley, we could criticize them, but the pass game is pretty good. So they face some good pass offenses this year, but 95th nationally still ain't going to get the job done. And so when I look at this game, I'll tell you this. I do think there's a side. You're going to have to hold your nose and you're going to have to trust Michigan. But I actually do like the over of 49.5. And I did mention off the top that the money is starting to come in on the over throughout this week. Now, I know what you're sitting there thinking. Torres, you are out of your mind. How could you possibly say that a Michigan offense that can't move the football is going to be able to put up enough points to hit this over against an Indiana defense that, as I said, top 10 in the country in total defense, number 1 in rush defense? Well, a couple things. First of all, let me just say this. It was only 3 weeks ago that Indiana was facing a top 15 defense in America in Nebraska and absolutely destroyed them at the point of scrimmage, put up 56 points, hit the over by themselves. But here's the other thing with Indiana, okay? Michigan does run the ball reasonably well. Even against Oregon last week, they actually had over 100 yards rushing against that Oregon defense. Davis Warren he wasn't good. I don't mean to be a jerk. It's just the truth. But he wasn't terrible either. 18 of 28 passing. He did have 1 touchdown. But I bring it up because as good as Indiana has been, number 1 rush defense in America, I do think it's worth noting they have faced some god-awful rush offenses, okay? And I pulled out the notepad and paper for the Alabama game earlier. I'm going to do the same for the Indiana run defense and who they have faced in terms of rush offenses. So Indiana, again, the number 1 ranked rush offense in America, number 1 ranked rush defense in America. Here is who they have faced. Florida Atlantic, 122nd in rush offense. Charlotte, 102nd in rush offense. Maryland, 107th in rush offense. Washington, 77th in rush offense. Michigan State, 110th in rush offense. Nebraska, 104th in rush offense. Northwestern, 116th in rush offense. And UCLA, dead last in America in rush offense. So it's not to sit here and say that Michigan's going to have some weird breakout outlier game. And it's not to say, by the way, that Indiana's run defense isn't legit. And beyond that, it's not to say that some of those numbers that I just showed you aren't reflective of, part of the reason that those run offenses are so bad is because they did play Indiana at some point. But it is worth noting, of their 8 FBS opponents, of the 8 FBS opponents, none of them are in the top half of college football in rush offense. And how about this? Only 1 is in the top 100 in college football. And so when I look at Michigan, we can criticize them, but they have been able to move the ball on the ground. They're about middle of the pack in the country, and they're doing that without any type of reasonable quarterback play. Now, on the other side, when Indiana has the football, I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think Curtis Rourke is going to be able to pass the ball. And I think there's a conversation to be had about, if Indiana keeps winning, we know they have the bye next week before Ohio State. Curtis Rourke should probably be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but he has been incredible this year. He's been the biggest reason among many. I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I think even against that Michigan defense, they'll be able to put up points. And I think Michigan's actually going to put up some more points than we expect. So go ahead and give me the over of 49.5.